That's Christian Rao of Locked On Kansas State. Christian, insanity in college football. There's a new quasi-governing body. Ross Dellenger, in a recent report from Yahoo Sports, talked about the SEC, Big Ten, and ACC making a bold and unprecedented move by creating a binding document that will require member schools to waive their right to sue over the enforcement of new rules in college athletics, such as NIL. So what this means, to break it down a bit, is if the NCAA comes out and says, hey, a $500,000 cap on NIL, then the conferences are saying, hey, we're going to comply with this new college sports commission who's trying to fix the Wild West of college. We're going to comply with this. And if you don't comply, if you try to sue, we will kick you out of our conference. That's how Dellenger reads it. That's how I read it. They're going to send around a contract that, in essence, shuts everybody up from complaining just to appease the bosses.
Yeah, and to me, can we say this is a double-edged sword? Can we say that there's maybe some good things to this and maybe some not? Are we okay that right now, where we're standing at this moment? Because there's times where you look at these Power 4 leagues and they're coordinating this new enforcement. And the one thing that's doing, and I think we said this earlier, it's just showing that the authority of the NCAA is crippling. There's no enforcement power for that governing body. I think that expands that even more. I think the conferences are now seeing that they have more of a marketing type of, ammo in their back pocket with these networks compared to the NCAA as a whole. I think we all know that, especially right now with how the Big Ten and SEC is leading the way, unfortunately, with ESPN. But then also at the same time, if you're going to make a force type of, blanket statement saying that you will follow suit or you're kicked out, to me, that's not a good idea, because then you're asking about power conferences, who, by the way, we're already at 4 now, no longer at 5. So that's already going down. They're fracturing internally. And this pushes to that new thing that Nick Saban talked about a couple of months ago. This potentially opens up that door, opens it wide open for that breakaway league, that premier league down the road. I really don't want to go that path, but if you think about it, it really does set it up there. If you don't like it, leave. Okay, well, if you're leaving, well, then we'll just start our own league. And if you talk about maybe like big name teams, and I know we're on the Big 12 show, but let's think about if Ohio State didn't sign this and they were told to leave. Fox Sports isn't going to let that happen because of the Ohio State-Michigan game. So if they decide to leave, they're going to do a premier league. They started off. This could be dreadful for not only the Power 4 schools, but all 134 FBS schools, Drake.
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head here. It's a double-edged sword. There are some good things. What if this college sports commission comes out and caps NIL at a certain level? The same way the NFL has a salary cap. What if that commission does some really good stuff? However, I don't think just because they're doing some good things, we have to handcuff ourselves to them and promise to shut up and take it no matter what moves they make. This is groundbreaking and honestly legally contentious. A document that would bind institutions to that CSC, even if their state laws contradict those policies, just like in Tennessee. If there are worker laws in your state that allow a free market, but then the CSC says no, what I don't understand, I know you're not, neither of us are reading the law books and taking the bar every day here, but I don't understand how a school would find it advantageous to sign a piece of paper saying, I waive my right for representation by my own government. I waive the rights given to me by the government. And that's what conferences are asking their schools to do.
Yeah, the way I understand it is the reason why Tennessee went ahead and did this themselves, because they think that eventually down the road, after this settlement happens, when the NCAA gets out maybe scot-free or maybe whatever the case may be, with, if you want to call it scot-free, it's a $2.6 billion payback. But once that's said and done, I think that they think that the lawsuits are going to go towards the states themselves. So I think Tennessee's trying to get a step forward on that. I've also read in that state settlement, that state law by Tennessee, that if a federal law wouldn't be passed, it would supersede that Tennessee law. So they're looking for a federal thing to be passed for the NCAA. I think it's just mainly to protect the state of Tennessee. That's why I think other states are going to follow suit by this. But when you're talking about the CSC and them talking about setting a salary cap, doing things like that, Drake, to me, it goes back to that Sherman Act. How can you be a governing committee And we've had committees in the past as well that haven't worked. We've seen multiple committees in the past that just haven't gone that way. But if you're going to make a decision saying you shall have just this amount of cap room, I feel like we're in the exact same position that we are right now when it comes to wage suppression. If you don't have a collective bargaining agreement, if you don't have a union, which would most likely mean, to my understanding, of course, but you'd have to employ these college athletes, which sounds like none of these programs want to do, then you're in the exact same situation you are right now, but you're just pushing the NCAA to the side. Could be a good thing, but it doesn't really help move the needle forward.
Yeah, this move to me further solidifies a notion that the Power Four is, in essence, forming their own governance structure through the CSC and slowly utilizing that to pull away from the NCAA in full. So it goes back to original conversation a little bit by saying, look, the NCAA is not against the CSC, the College Sports Commission, necessarily. This is it's an added government body almost. But also, if the day comes and we say, hey, this CSC's got some pretty good ideas, why don't we just utilize them instead of the NCAA? I think we can get there. It's just a question of what if they don't, and what if they're violating Sherman? What if they're violating what college athletes can get? And then again, there's stability in this. That's the point of this, where the college leagues have come together and said, hey, if we have a true governing body, we will find some sort of stability. If there are rules about NIL, if there are rules that can be followed that even supersede the government, then we'll have stability. But Christian, correct me if I'm wrong, stability can cap your ceiling. That's what we're doing here. We're using the word stability to talk about how we're going to cap the ceiling of what an SEC player can get paid, of what an SEC player can do in the transfer portal. And maybe that's my biggest concern here. Why would the SEC ever want to be involved with something like this if it's going to start capping what they can give their players when they can give their players more than anyone else?
Yeah, and it also opens up the elephant in the room as well. I mean, there is going to be a time and place where the cap is just too low for somebody to get that competitive edge that we've seen in the past before all this stuff happened, when athletes were getting paid in the past before all of this NIL and things happened. We're going to be taking a step to the back if that happens. Remember SMU? Remember all that stuff that happened back in the years ago, Drake? That could be right back in the forefront if there is a cap and saying, when it comes to these NIL rules, a clearinghouse is going to have to make sure that this is something not just football related, but maybe a marketing kind of thing if you get an NIL deal. And if it doesn't work out in their favor or they don't like this type of deal, that player can't play until it's a renegotiated contract. Do you really think that these NIL people, these people that are not connected to the program itself, that are willing to spend their money to help their program, their universities, are going to let a CSC, the NCAA, or any kind of governing body say, how are you going to let me spend my money? I can't see that happening. So I think we're going to be at a standstill at that situation. I think that's another reason why we are stuck right here in this right now situation of not having a settlement being done. Now, they talk about the roster sizes being the reason why, but there's a lot of other reasons being taken care of there. And then with this CSC, it sounds like a great idea. Don't get me wrong. It sounds like a fantastic idea because I am not a fan of the NCAA any way, shape, or form. But it just seems like it's missing a lot of pieces. Maybe we just haven't heard enough. I think this is just new things that are still breaking out, and we're learning new things as we go. And maybe I'm missing something because there's a lot of reading to this. But as of right now, I think there's just a lot of things that are yet to be unsaid and yet to be taken care of, to me, to be excited about a new commission coming in. We've had commissions before and they haven't worked out.
If none of that makes any sense to you, the listener, I get it. I understand in full because it's crazy. It is, if I can make it a thesis, the government and college power conferences saying we don't like each other and want to do the opposite of one another moving forward. Coming up, your team, if you're not a Kansas State fan, wants the opposite of this. K-State's going to win the whole conference. This is a Locked On Big 12, Locked On Kansas State crossover.